Invocation, Ms. Nzanbeni Tsopoe. Keynote address, Ms. Gethono Natro, State Disability Commissioner. Then we'll have a speech from our special guest. Then we'll start off with our workshop session. So, to begin with our program, I call upon Ms. Nzanbeni to come and invoke us.
Hello everyone, good morning. Wonderful to have you all here today. Of course, thank you to our special guest, Principal Director, School Education, Mr. Shanavas, for making the time to be here with us this morning. The resource persons and all the participants in the workshop today, thank you for accepting our invitation to come and have this conversation on this very, very crucial topic. Children with disabilities are one of the most marginalized and excluded groups. Although there is severe lack of data, available evidence from a few countries shows that without exception, children with disabilities are more likely to be excluded from school, out of school, than their peers without disabilities. Even when they join school, children with disabilities are less likely to complete primary or secondary education, and the inequality grows as the level of education advances. In 2016, UNICEF analysis of 15 countries revealed that among a number of factors, including income and gender, the role of disability was the most dominant in contributing to whether children attended school or not. Children with disabilities are likelier to have never attended school in the first place. Such findings contain profound implications, not only in terms of unfair educational access, but also in terms of the life choices and opportunities denied, because education is the gateway to children's full participation in society, transition into adulthood, opportunities for employment and engagement with their communities. All the facts stated above holds true for our children here with disabilities here in our state. First of all, we have to be brutally honest and acknowledge that disability in general was a totally neglected sector for the past many years. Therefore, all matters concerning children with disabilities, including education, of course, was also completely neglected. One of the biggest challenges that we have with children with disabilities, and of course with persons with disabilities in general, is the lack of data, as stated above. In many ways, they continue to be the uncounted section of society. With regard to children with disabilities, how many are there? How many are out of school? How many have assistive technologies, assistive devices to aid their education? In what manner do their disabilities hinder their education? We simply do not have any proper information or data on these kinds of questions. The time to change all these has come. We cannot allow this situation to continue, and all concerned departments and organizations need to come together to make the change happen. School education is, of course, one of the major departments that we are looking to work closely with, particularly at this time when implementation of the new education policy, national education policy is in focus. The aim of equity and inclusion is now at the heart of the new NEP. The policy is designed to avoid segregation and isolation of ethnic and linguistic minorities, those with disabilities, and also those who face learning difficulties due to language barriers and are at the risk of educational exclusion. However, as we all know, policy may be top-notch, but ultimately what will matter is how it is implemented and put into practice on the ground. With education being a concurrent subject whereby the state also has a huge say in how we make the policy work in our context, this is absolutely the right time to ensure that our education system becomes fully inclusive. The approach to education of children with disabilities currently is basically an appendix, a kind of afterthought that is added after everything is said and done. We say we are going to be as inclusive as possible, the education of children with disabilities will also be considered that kind of, addition after everything has been planned and done. This is not acceptable anymore. Inclusion has to be on the table as we discuss and plan the overhauling of the education system, and inclusive education specialists have to be at the table. We cannot continue making the education of our children with disabilities an afterthought. There is indeed a space for special schools where children with disabilities, with different types of disabilities, are taught separately. But the overall aim now has to be about an inclusive education system, a system where all children, disabled and non-disabled, come together and learn together in the same classroom. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2016 also clearly states in section 16 that all educational institutions funded or recognized by the state government shall provide inclusive education to children with disabilities. The steps to be taken towards this end has been laid out in relevant sections and subsections. These sections were notified on 30th March 2020 in our state, which effectively means that all educational institutions funded or recognized by our state government should now be following the inclusive education system. I'm not sure whether all our schools are even aware of this notification and the implications. In any case, merely issuing a notification does not automatically make something happen. Without putting the mechanisms in place, inclusive education will continue, to be merely on paper, while our children with disabilities continue to be ignored and excluded from our education system, left behind like they don't matter, as they have been all these years. Today's workshop, as you can see, basically covers Kohima only. With the COVID situation just about easing up, we felt it prudent to keep it safe and small to start with. Our hope is to have a series of discussions and trainings in the coming months with both the government and the private sectors that will help us move towards real inclusion in education. We are also looking forward to better collaboration with the school education department as we take this movement forward. So, inclusive education is an education system. Creating an inclusive school culture is an opportunity to teach students early in their development as citizens about the value of inclusion. It will inculcate in them behaviors that will ultimately help nurture truly inclusive communities. It also provides an opportunity for parents to learn along with their children about the importance of belonging, acceptance, and community. Thank you once again to all of you for your participation today.
Thank you, Chairperson. Respected Ma'am Ditano, the State Disability Commissioner, Ma'am Asano, and other resource persons, dear participants, friends from the media, very good morning to all of you. In the keynote address, we all heard from Ma'am that the inclusive education, we keep saying inclusive education. Even in the National Education Policy 2020, it stresses a lot of inclusive education. But mostly it will remain in the paper. Even being from the government side, I can say that it remains in the paper, but when it comes to the field level, when it comes to the school level, it doesn't happen in that way. So this is what we need to change, and I hope let this workshop be a beginning for that. Because having workshops is easier, but taking the results of the workshop to the field and get the results done in the school level and helping our children, that matters a lot. So I hope we can do that. Inclusive education as a concept, the whole meaning is that our children with differential abilities, you are able to take them along, whatever kinds of disabilities they have, you are able to take them along with the normal kids and give them good education, and they find their own livelihood at the end of the day when they complete their education. So it's inclusive of everyone. That is the actual meaning. So with this concept in the country, in India, there are around 3,200 special schools. But mostly if you can see, of course as ma'am said, the data is not accurate. The data is not at all accurate, and we focus on those children, mostly it's limited to the urban areas. And when it goes to the rural areas, you are not able to collect the data, or you are not able to population. That is one of the major challenges when it comes to helping children with differential abilities. So the large section of population is still left out. When you come to Nagaland, inclusive education, so let's also talk about not only education, helping the people with differential abilities, whether it's students or above. In my limited experience for the last 9 years, we have conducted so many elections in some district. The only time you think about people with differential abilities is when you get the instruction from the Election Commission of India that you make ramps for your polling stations, you get the data of PWD voters, so that time you move around and collect the data, which is not accurate at all. And in my junior postings in Zunogodo and all, we had some of the NGOs coming in and we could give some wheelchairs and all for the people with differential abilities. So you can see the lack of confidence on their faces, not only their faces, even in the faces of their families. They are not able to come, they don't want to come forward. And they don't want their children to be exposed. They don't want their children to be exposed. They don't want the world to know that my child has a differential ability. So this is the situation, this is the society we are living in. So our inclusive education doesn't start from the school level where you give actual education to the children. It starts from the homes when you give them confidence to come forward to the mainstream and attend the schools. So that is a major challenge we have in Nagaland. And as ma'am rightly pointed out, even our database is so weak. We need a convergence of the departments, whether it's the Department of School Education, whether it's the Department of Social Welfare, Department of Health and Family Welfare. And the children and the people, they need to have the disability certificate. And the data should be accurate enough to plan the welfare activities in the state level, which is not the case. And from our department level, we try to collect the data from the schools. We don't know whether they give the accurate data or not. And we work on the data whatever we get from the schools, which is not accurate. And after that, when we plan the welfare activities for these children, and it has to be specific. You cannot plan the same activity and same intervention for a child with intellectual disabilities and a child with a blind child or a child with hearing disabilities and all. So it has to be specific. It has to be specific, and you need to have the convergence of the departments in the state level. So it's easy to talk, but when it comes to actually get it done, we need the cooperation of all the departments, and from the school to education department level, I can ensure on behalf of the government that we will try our best. And during the COVID also, of course our major students were affected as a whole, but the students with differential abilities, they got affected a lot. And they could not get any education, they were just at their homes. So limited level, with the help of ma'am and your department, we could do something, at least get the sign language interpretation done for the video lessons we telecasted. But that is not exhaustive. That's just one intervention. And we need a lot of interventions like that with the convergence and coordination of the departments. So one of the activity we plan to do, we are going to strengthen our educational management and information system, which is the data of all the students and teachers and the schools on a real-time basis. So this activity we are going to do to ensure that the enrollment is not bogus in the schools, and we get the actual midday meal, whether it's midday meal uniform or textbooks, to reach to the children. So in that EMIS, we are also including a close map that we will even get the data of all the students and the kind of differential ability they have, specific details. So hopefully we should get this done. We should launch this EMIS in another 1 month or 2 months. And if we get this accurate data in the school level, in further convergence and coordination, we will have an accurate data on to work on, at least in the school level. And this will cover both the government schools and the private schools. So we won't leave behind any school. And at the end, it's our collective responsibility. In this year we had the Olympics, and after that Paralympics was going on. And we were proud to see the athletes performing even in the Paralympics, how talented they are. They were performing really well. But I keep telling, it's easy to cheer from the gallery, sitting in the gallery, it's easy to cheer. But whether we want our children, once they grow up, to have that talent, encourage them, give them confidence, we have to start working now. And we have to start working for the children from their early childhood, so that they don't lack the confidence once they grow up and they are able to fight their own life. It's our life, we need to fight ourselves. In the same way, those children, they also need to fight their own lives. So let us give them confidence, let's give them a push to fight. And of course, if the departments can coordinate, if the well-wishers can come together like this, in more number of occasions, and whatever we discuss in this workshop, and you have so many resource persons to follow after my speech, if we get all these points implemented in the field, in the school level, I'm sure in the coming years the situation will be better. We will have accurate data to work on, and we will have a lot of philanthropists coming in and our children growing, and they take care of their future. And finally, thank you for calling me. It's been my privilege to talk to all of you. And please attend the workshop carefully. I will also be here. Thank you.
Was born. She was born preterm, and initially it was just a medical emergency that we had to cater to, and then we were in and out in hospital. Fast forward to it was 3. We realized that something is really wrong. Her milestone remains. She was not speaking until she was